Speaker, Ned Sahin from Brainpower. He's going to tell us about how they're using augmented reality to help those with autism. So let's give it over to Ned.
Thanks everyone. Thanks for coming on a summer day. Got a lot of other things to do, so I'm glad you're here to let me bore you. So how do you like this building and this room?
It's
It's awesome, right? Yeah. So our offices are on the 3rd floor, and we're hiring. So yeah, stay in this building. All right, great. Well, I'll try to get through this fast so we can get to some demos. I'll be set up over there, as I was previously, just for a moment, to demo some of our software and hardware. And I'll talk today, I'll give a quick overview of how this, which you know and love or detest or whatever, Google Glass, can be used to give experiences that people with autism love and that help them learn crucial life skills. And I'll explain a little bit more about why I say it in that particular way. We're going to talk about eye contact, emotion decoding, language, and pragmatics, conversation skills outside of language, and also some other things. For instance, about wandering. Now, who knows Google Glass? Yeah, you all know about it, but who's played around with it, used it, and so forth? So fewer than you'd think in this crowd, except already I've been used to thinking that. And it's funny because a lot of people have a lot of opinions on it and didn't use it, kind of like sports teams. Didn't necessarily play. And that's fine, I'm not here to defend Glass, but right now it's what we use, but we're also platform independent. But I will say that Glass is pretty cool inside. There's a lot in there. So there's a 9-axis accelerometer, gyroscope, magnetometer complex. It's GPS, it's Wi-Fi, it's Bluetooth. It has a wonderful system on a chip. It runs our stuff on device without issue, without memory leak, a little bit of overheating. And it has this wonderful optic system, because if you put your finger this close in front of your eye, you can't see it. It's blurred. But Glass's display is right there, because they folded the light path so it seems like it's a foot away. And they have done a lot of other things. On the other side of this camera that looks out into the world is an infrared camera that looks at your eye. And that's how I can tell about blink rate and other signs of stress. So there's a lot on board, and we use it. Now, it was designed to be a notification device to give you small amounts of information at the right time. It wasn't designed to do what we're doing, but now that we're doing it, Google's pretty happy. And I've given 8 invited lectures at Google, including a few keynotes at big events, and spoken to their engineering team, core team that built Glass. And they said that it is the most creative use and impactful use of their device. So that felt good. And we kept on. All those parts. Now, autism. Who knows something about autism? So we sort of all do, right? Because we've heard things in the media. But like Google Glass, maybe you've heard something, but without the personal contact, maybe it's hard to know too much about it, and there are a lot of misconceptions. There's also such a broad spectrum that they often say, if you know one person with autism, you know one person with autism. And that's true of most things, but maybe a little bit more so with autism because it's so broad. And there's a lot of politics around it as well. It's prevalent, 1 in 68, it's kind of a staggering number, and amongst boys it's 1 in 40. So when something is more than 2% of your population, you have to take it seriously. And yes, boys, so it's a 5-to-1 ratio, between 4 and 5 to 1, boys to girls. And that, along with almost everything else about it, is a baffling mystery. People have hand-waving theories, and some neuroscience and some genetics, but we're not there yet in understanding why and for whom, and then what are the subtypes? It's a big label. As usual, you're supposed to put this kind of information. Yes, it affects a lot of people and it costs a lot of money. That's not really our point, but the main point is that it's deeply personal. It involves the whole family, and there is no medical solution right now. So we're not a medical solution. I'll say later we're going through clinical trials soon, but not to get FDA approval, but to reassure the parents. We are an educational play and a lifestyle play. There's no blood test for autism. We don't understand the neuroscience or the genetics. And unfortunately, we're getting too much information out of the genetics. There are too many genes involved, so it's not going to be simple. What we need is a plan for Tuesday. We need an answer to the parent who says, I don't know if my kid is going to college. Should I prepare a college fund, or should I prepare the basement? So we need an answer and daily results and ongoing assessment to assess those crucial life skills. Now, it's kind of cumbersome using this thing and holding this and doing all this, so I'm sorry if I feel a bit stuck here. Normally I move around more. So why use anything like Google Glass for this purpose? It's a heads-up computer, and that's kind of gives away the first answer, right? So this is an alternative. What's it an alternative to? There are a lot of apps for autism, but they're on the phone, and they're on the iPad. And so where's the child looking? He's not looking at you, and he's not learning the information that we get only by looking at the subtleties of each other's faces. So they're looking down. With a heads-up display, they're exactly that. They're heads up, looking out in the world and engaging with you. And our particular software doesn't take them away from the world, but brings them into the world. They get points for making eye contact, and so forth. So what else did I say? I'm seeing what you don't see yet. And we will be building into this wearable device things that are head-specific, brain sensing, mood sensing, and so forth. That's very important. And another thing is, children with autism tend to love technology. And some of us in the room, or when I'm giving talks to parents, they grew up with 8 tracks and answering machines with little tapes in them. And these kids were born after the iPhone. So this is not new for them. Their world is the world of Avatar and so forth. So this is something, okay, now what will it do for me? And when they realize that it can do something interesting and make them popular at school, that's a great thing. Some people worry about Google Glass. Is Google Glass dead? I'll address that. But just to address some other devices, a recent Chinese copy of Google Glass. Straight, literally fresh off the boat. And we're porting to this. And the Vuzix device, this one I can't see through, but I can kind of tilt this out of the way, I believe. So these are Android devices. We're Android. We're a bit of hardware, and we're a bit of software. And Glass is the best out there right now because of all that I mentioned at the hardware level. But also, what's the first word in Google Glass? Yeah, it's pretty hard to compete against Google. They have access to their own servers, to the compendium of human knowledge, and fastest computers in the world. So, I've left my thing over here. I'll build this into my finger. So, I didn't say that, that's what Wired said. And I really like that they said that because they said it and put my picture on it. Begins, Ned Sahin is betting the future of his company on Google Glass. It's true. But not totally true. We're very close with Google. This is the head of the Glass program. Between her and the head of product, Jay, we're very close. When things are happening, we find out as soon as anyone outside of Google finds out. So we know the roadmap, and we're forging forward. It's a really exciting time. The fact that there are copies, the fact that everyone has heard about Google Glass, even if never tried it, and I've taken this to Laos, to Vietnam, to Turkey, to Germany. People say, Google! They've heard of it. That means this is the harbinger of something very interesting. You're all here because of that. Wearable, head-mounted wearable technologies. Now you could ask, well, kids with autism, I've heard they don't like things on their head, or they might throw it, break it. Well, we wanted to find out that same question. We didn't exactly want to put an expensive thing on a kid who's not going to like it. So we found out. We've actually demoed and tested with hundreds of kids now, from very young, 18 months, to, well, actually to 35-year-old adults with autism and older. And so far the results are in, they love it. And what's interesting is teachers and parents say, that sounds like a great idea, but I'm not sure about my kid or these kids in this classroom. And they're surprised. Kids take it, get a private world, it's technologically compatible with how they see the world, and they have their own experience. So universally, we've found acceptance, even in very, very severely affected people who have a lot of, kind of always in motion and really a lot going on. No problem or very minimal problem. So it's great. So what do we do? I mentioned the accelerometer, and I mentioned that in autism, one of the key things is eye contact or social engagement. It's just hard. It's always hard, but it's particularly hard for some people. So we ask this simple question: when mom calls his name, does the child look? It's pretty simple, but it's actually part of the diagnosis battery for autism. It's that important. And getting better over time at just that thing is not only better for the outcome of autism. Autism isn't in a textbook or in a clinical manual. It's in daily life. So that mom, when she calls his name, he looks and he emotes, he gives a smile or something. That's a mom who feels that the love she's giving is received. That's a mom who's going to advocate for that child in the school. And the school has a much better chance of helping him than the clinic. So this is one of the things we do. There's little Johnny, and the camera on glass finds mom, face detection. The two microphones in class, I didn't mention that. There's two microphones, so we can do a little bit of stereo location. That plus the camera helps us. And there's a bone conduction speaker, so mom can speak directly into his head. So the accelerometer tracks any motions, and we ask the simple question: does he flip around? Does he look? And remember, again, it's not to look within 1 arcsecond of a degree at her ocular cavity. It's, does it go from this to this? And even the best behavioralist and specialist can never record the 10,000 or 100,000 times this child is or isn't looking in a day or a week or a month. But of course, the computer system can. Simple, discrete data. A or B, did happen, didn't happen. But also the full motion arc. Was it, I'm looking at you, or was it kind of cruising around and sort of looking at you? Data, data, data. And data get more important as time goes by. So, with eye contact, it's not just a matter of measuring. We want to prompt. We want to make it fun. We want to use the naturally installed behavior-producing mechanism that's already on board the firmware of that kid, meaning games. Kids like to play games. So we find a scene and we make it different. 25 times a second, what I'm wearing, let's do it. Okay, glass, face game. Okay, so now I'm seeing what looks like a video feed of all of you, but in fact, 23 or 25 times a second, it's taking a picture and processing that through an engine that we have built and it's on board here. And it looks through all possible rectangles, finds anything that might be like a face, and then selects that and looks for further processing to find a face. If it's there, describe the envelope and put a transparent PNG. In other words, mom becomes an angry bird. Which is funny, even for everyone in this room. Now imagine that for the kid who's been listening to mom getting angry all the time, and suddenly she's actually an angry bird. It's interesting and it's salient. There's a trade-off in autism between salience and relevance. Your elbows are flaring all around, they may be salient, but it's your eyes, which tend not to move that much, that give me the more information, it's more relevant. So we try to rewrite the world of salience into relevance, or vice versa, so that things get interesting. So when he looks, then the face goes away, because now he's directed the gaze, and we measure that based on the face position and the head motions, and then I get a circle and a point. It's a very basic interface now. Again, looking for gaming programmers to make that even more engaging. But the point is they get a point for social engagement. I had a kid in New York the other day, and he sat there on the couch with me, and he kept trying to make eye contact, and I was trying to talk to his mom. I'm looking there, and he says, no, 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 look. And then I'm looking, he's like, oh, got a point. Got a point. And then I'm looking away, telling mom, she says, no, 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 look at me, make eye contact. I just got schooled by a 12-year-old with autism into making eye contact. And he got